Okay, fire away. This this is to be an audio book. Is the tryout concept. Who knows where it's going to take me, what it's going to do to my head. It's already giving me problems, and it's only 22 seconds old. I tried to learn this morning how to use VLC to record audio, but it doesn't think about audio like I think about audio. So after some pages and reading and then some YouTube videos, I gave up. 45 minutes of my life lost trying to come to grips with how to record an audio file with the open source software VLC, which I wanted to use to do that with, rather than the proprietary thing that I bought that saves only in WAV files um, and yeah, I think I missed the apps part of life. Um, I certainly did miss that there, and that's why one of the reasons that got me to the point of doing an audio book. The reason for the audio book. That's here we're getting down to the starting point of all of this. I was born in 1948, the 27th of December, 1948, and I was in Australia in a little country town called Yea in central Victoria. Pretty little place, and yeah, um, a nice spot. A bit chilly, bit cool at times there, and had it's typical Australian um, cold winters and hot summers at times. Um, and Australia had not long signed, the war had not long finished, and Australia had on the 10th of that month, December 1948, had signed its intentions to honour the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And I learned later in life that was a pretty big thing at the time, and it was something I was raised to acknowledge, that effort from Australia to yeah, get ourselves out beyond the horror of the Second World War and move forward, advance life. Um, for everyone, uh, here I am, 2018, 70 years of age this year, and I've just been through, since 2013 anyway, a little bit before, the Royal Commission into the institutional responses to child sexual abuse, um, um, and I've just come back through a nightmare, a total nightmare, and and one of us, you, the rest of the country, or me, has got to live in a warp drive somewhere. Um, I don't, my life just doesn't work with my experience. So that's why I'm here. I'm wanting to try out and say, what can I do with this? Can I make this into an audio book? And I think this is the bit of a way to go. And here's the beginning ramble of that. It'll just be random. I might introduce you to contacts, people, whatever. I consider that well, not only do I consider this, but I think others may do, that I don't think in the same way that many others do about this particular issue, and this is the sexual abuse of children, and by Catholic clergy. Now, I had the misfortune of being raised in a quite a Catholic family, and I think that was probably one of the unluckiest events or aspects of my life. Yeah. Although, yeah, it would have been unlucky, but it was even unluckier that we lived directly across the road from the church. From our front door, we looked right across, virtually across the altar of the church there on the parade yay. And the earliest experience of that I have memories of take me to playing under that house at home, and there were new neighbours that had come, I think, from Yugoslavia. They were refugees from the war. They'd moved in next door. There was mum and dad and a little girl that was in under the house. We were playing, making mud pies. I was 3.5 years of age, and she wasn't much different than that. And she was in a Sunday go to church dress, I think. And anyway, it wasn't going to be. It was going to be in need of a big wash after playing in the mud and dust under our house. And that was the beginning. That's my first recollection, and that recollection took me from that point, 3.5 years of age, through a couple of steps to being sexually abused by nuns in the local convent. And that came about as a result of the sexual abuse of my brother Robert. And how does that fit in there? Well, that memory came, as I said, sitting under the house playing mud pies and in the very dry dust, when my father came to the little door or gateway that led under the house, and they were below the back stairs at that point, or the back stairs were at the back of the house. And he asked where my brother Robert was. And I pointed to the little cubby house that had been built underneath the bathroom. And because I knew he was in there. And he was in there with the little girl's mother. There. And whatever. So my father must have opened the door, because next thing there's a whole fucking row going on. And my brother Robert's half naked, the woman next door's half naked, My brother Robert must have been, I don't know, how much older than he, 8 or 9. I don't know. He 5 years older than I am, maybe, and I was 3.5, so 8.5 to 9 years of age. The outcome of that was that my father beat the crap out of my brother Robert over this. Just mercilessly beat him, and tortured and punished him, in my view. Somehow, I don't know how this came about, but somehow the issue was not the fault or the problem of the woman from next door. The problem was a product, the result of whatever my brother had done, according to the way I understand. That's what I understood about that. And what I believe has happened there, that my older brother Robert, because of the bloody extreme nature of the punishment that laid out by my father, had to take his frustration somewhere, and I was this soft-laid, younger, vulnerable individual down the hierarchy, and I took the brunt of that. So he took his frustrations out on me. My father took his frustrations out on my older brother, and my mother attempted to intervene, whatever. And what came about was that she was pregnant. I might have been with a younger sister, Irene. I'm not too sure who it was at that point. This would be 1951 there. So, which of ever of my sisters there were born 51, 52. Sister, I think it was a sister. And she was off to hospital to have this child, and she was frustrated and unable to stop my brother Bob bullying me, and as a means of protecting me, I was sent to the nuns at the convent to stay there for a couple of days whilst Mum went into the hospital to have a baby. And that was the first time I was sexually abused. As I said, nearly 70, and this was 3.5 years of age, and they've been some of the most difficult recollections to process as part of this coming forward to the Royal Commission. I want to, every time I make a statement about the Royal Commission or people coming forward, and I hear those words that were pumped out publicly, support, before, during and after. And that simply has not occurred, not just for myself, but for many. The bulk of the issues that I find that have excluded me or made it more difficult have been the medical profession in a major number of ways, and my need of secular services, psychological, psychiatric, if I need psychiatric services, but definitely secular, psychological, medical, and anything to do with personal services, health. There, I have a need of secular services because I have a need to be able to speak directly about my life experiences to health professionals who I'm engaging to look after my personal best interest in a matter. And when that matter involves the rape of children by Catholic clergy on such an extensive scale, and not just Catholic clergy, but clergy of almost, I think, every other religion. Mostly I focus on the Christian religions and Catholicism simply because that's the one that I was involved in. That notion of what separation of church and state just doesn't exist in reality. The Catholic Church is a powerful institution, and it has put in a lot of effort to get itself to the top of anywhere in the systems of hundreds of countries, or 100 plus countries, I might say, put it that way. And very skillfully done. They have the money and the connections to do so, and have done so. And they've done that with the belief that they had it right. Their way was the one true way, the only way that life could be lived successfully. Make your way through the difficulties and struggles of this life, and move on into a next life where everything's hunky-dory, sweet and lovely. And it's all been preordained, written down, and all you've got to do is follow the instructions. And my experience at 3.5 years of age was to be sexually interfered with and molested and used, sexually used by Catholic nuns in the convent at Yei, 1951-52. And it really has left me in a bizarre set of circumstances throughout my life. Had a massive impact on and on. And 2018, October, and I can say this, that from my childhood and move forward, and I can tell of many events that occurred. And if I look to 14 years of age, where the one man who stood up for me was murdered in Yei as a result of a Catholic clergyman sexually abusing children. We'll come to the fine details of that later on. There. This stuff set the course of my life. It was a nightmare, and still is a nightmare. 2018, October. Support before, during and after is not happening. Not happening. Today's the day of the huge apology that we get from the Prime Minister. But it will focus a great deal on those kids in orphanages who were abused atrociously by people of religion. I've squeezed in to this Royal Commission. Others who didn't have the quote good fortune to be abused in certain places, certain locations, or under certain circumstances, miss out. Some today who finished up in jail, and they are going to be denied justice. This is about the most horrible human rights abuses that I am aware of. Today has left me disturbed that Australia, 70 years on since its aspirations of human rights, is in the process of abusing the human rights of tens of thousands of those, of the human rights of those who came forward, and the tens or hundreds of thousands of those who didn't. And they didn't come forward because the environment not safe enough, not supportive enough for them. They can see the 60,000 being screwed over. They see the lack of support. They don't hear stories of support and recovery, because there is little for some. It must be going somewhere because there's money poured into it. It doesn't make it across the ground to those of us who are actual survivors. And what's worse, if we're actual survivors of abuse by religious people and we become outspoken, chances of support there, fast tracking, etc., disappear. They disappear. Along with hen's teeth and dingo's bad breath. There's an opening, a starter. Let's see where we go from here. I need to get my head back. Okay.